till the end of the.
Spanish interpretation online and
Yeah. You say then the
then
treble.
or you can tell them what you said later.
Okay.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Holy cow. I'm Trisha Weber, County Clerk, and I'm here tonight with Erwin Otis, the City Clerk for Watsonville. And I wanted to say that there is translation available both online and in person into for Spanish. And if you are online and you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand so we can call on you. If you're in person, please feel free to raise your hand so we can call on you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Candidate Forum, getting ready for the November 3rd, 2026 general election. I believe everyone, including who's online, is for City Council. So I will tailor everything towards the City Council. However, if you are interested in information on running for a special district or a school district, please stop me because things are slightly different. Okay. So I have here with me some candidate handbooks. They're also available online at our website, which is votescount.santacruzcountyca.gov. And what I have here is a slimmed down version. Online, it is about twice the size because it goes through all of the different code sections that are referenced during the course of the book. But in the manual, it goes through all of the things that we're going to talk about this evening, along with much more information. And one of the first pages that you'll see is how to contact my office. Now, as running for City Council, you will do all of your filing through Erwin. However, if you want to buy data for like a mailing, or you're interested in a walking list, or you want to know who has already voted and who hasn't voted so you can talk to them, you would do all of that through my office. So what we've listed there is our office's staff, including me and the Assistant County Clerk, Rita, but also our candidate services team led by Stanley and assisted with Stephanie, who's with us tonight, and they can answer some questions. And also in there, you'll find the vote by mail coordinator and our mapping and data coordinator who would be able to help you buy data files. Okay, next slide. One of the things I want to talk about straight off the top is election violations. Neither my office nor the city clerk's office are investigators. So if there is something that you feel is an election violation, like registration violation or false or misleading campaign statements, or a question regarding campaign finance filing, vandalism to signs, those would have to be referred to either the city attorney, the district attorney, or the city police or the sheriff, depending on where it happens. You can also contact the FPPC directly and the Secretary of State directly. If you contact us, we're happy to hear what you say, but then we're going to tell you, you have to talk to this other agency because they can investigate, whereas we just take down information and can't do much with it other than pass it along, but then they would be contacting you for more information. Okay. So this is just a quick update of what the timelines are for this upcoming election. So candidate filing begins on July 13th. That's just a few weeks away. And it ends on August 7th. And what you'll need to do when you're running for city council is first go in and talk to Erwin and staff, and you will receive your nomination papers. And then you will circulate your nomination papers to get 20 good signatures. Then you will return with those signatures And once they've checked out to be good, then you will file your declaration of candidacy. And all must be done during that time frame of July 13th and August 7th. There is an option where it may extend to the 12th of August, but that is only if an eligible incumbent chooses not to run. So if somebody is termed out, they're not eligible to run again. So therefore, that seat would not go to extension. So again, it's only if there is an eligible incumbent who fails to file by the 7th of August, will it then extend 5 more days. You may.
For the city of Watsonville, there will be districts 3, 4, and 5 that could potentially have an extension. District 7 will be termed out, so that one will not be eligible for that extension.
Then on August 13th, we will conduct a random alphabet draw. So we do not do things like normal people. We use our own alphabet. We use our own ability. We do a different way of word count. But the reason we use a random alphabet is to not give somebody whose last name starts with A always the benefit of being listed first, or someone whose last name starts with Z always the benefit of being listed last. So we do a random alphabet draw, and that way everyone has just as good of a chance as being listed as the first candidate as everyone else. And so we conduct that draw on August 13th, and we will use it throughout the ballot. So that's the way the names will be listed on the ballot. That's the way that the name or the candidate statements will be listed in the candidate guide or the simple county information guide. Never do we do things in a true alphabetical A to Z. Ballots go out on September 4th. It's a very quick turnaround from when filing ends on the 12th of August and we send out ballots on the 4th of September. Those go to our military and overseas voters. They get them 60 days before an election, 30 days before everyone who's domestic, only because it's a longer time to send it to them and a longer time for them to send it back. The domestic vote by mails are sent on October 5th. We open voting locations on October 5th. We open more on the 24th of October, even more on the 31st of October. And then on Election Day, November 3rd, we will have 25 different voting locations open for people to go to. We are a vote center county, which means that any voter can go to any voting location and receive their ballot. So I am registered on the west side of Santa Cruz. If I happen to be down here in Watsonville and it's like, hey, I feel like voting, I can walk into a voting location and they will give me my ballot for the west side of Santa Cruz, and I do not have to vote provisionally. It's a real live ballot that goes into the ballot box. So with little bitty teeny little writing, these are the different blocks of paperwork that you will need to file in order to fulfill the filing requirements for your candidacy. One of them we already talked about was your nomination papers. You obtain those first and you take them out and you circulate them, and you need 20 good signatures in order to meet the nomination requirements. After that, you then file your declaration of candidacy, which says, I declare myself to be a candidate for this particular office. On that declaration is where you will put your ballot designation. Those are the 3 words underneath your name that talk about your principal vocation, occupation, or profession. You fill out a worksheet which tells us why you can use those ballot designation or that ballot designation. If you are interested in doing a candidate statement of qualifications for the voter guide, you file it at the time of your declaration. That's 200 words in English. And I'll show you the format and talk about it a little bit more in some future slides. And then you also let us know at that time if you want it translated into one of our languages. Santa Cruz County now has 3 languages. In addition to English, we can do Spanish, Japanese, and Thai. You'll fill out an internet waiver. I automatically post who is a candidate and what their ballot designation is. But I can post more on my website. If you have a phone number or an email or an address or a website where you want or voters to be directed to ask questions or see information on you, you can let me know what that is through this internet waiver. And once you file it, it is amendable. So say you start off using, I don't know, a Gmail account, and then you create your own website, and then you get a new email that goes with your new website address, then you can go ahead and tell us that, and we can make a change to it. There are a bunch of FPPC or Fair Political Practice Commission paperwork that you will need to fill out. One of them is a Form 501, which is your intention to run. You can file that at any time between now and when you take out your nomination papers. You will need to file that before you spend even 1 cent of your own money. Some of the other forms might be a Form 410 if you're going to create a campaign committee. After you create your campaign committee, then you file Form 460s during periods of time, like a semi-annual or a pre-election. You'll need to fill out a Form 700, which is your statement of economic interest. It shows any type of conflict that may arise with something that you own or your income versus decisions you may make when elected. Let's see. There is a optional form saying that you're going to run a nice campaign. That's also from the FPPC. I find it interesting that it's optional. One would think that you would want everyone to sign something saying that they're going to be good candidates, but that is one that you can choose to file if you'd like. It's not a number. It's just called the Code of Fair Campaign Practices. And then something new that you will need to talk about is your if you want to be a confidential voter or if you want to be on the public roster. So the beginning of this year, Assembly Bill 1392 went into effect. And what that states is any elected official shall be made confidential for their registration, which means that they're pulled off of the public data file and no information on who they are, where they live, what their political party affiliation, all of that is removed. So that means on the one side, you get nothing in the mail, like slate mailers, because you don't exist on a list. But on the other side, you don't get anything in the mail like the rest of your household does. So we would send your ballot information in a manila envelope, not in our normal ones. You don't get any voter guides. And you cannot vote in person because you don't appear on the voter file. So candidates running for an elected of office also have the option to be confidential during the course of the candidacy. So you will be asked, do you want to be a confidential voter during the course of the candidacy, or do you want to remain on the public file? And you will sign a form that says either make me confidential or don't make me confidential. And that form comes to me. You sign it with Erwin, but it comes to me and I have to have it with your signature on it. I can use a scan, but then I have to have the original come to me because I have to keep that since I maintain the data file. And if you choose to do that as a candidate and you win, then I talk to you again saying, now that you've won, would you like to remain confidential or become confidential if you weren't, or should we opt you out? And if you do not have a successful election, then I revert you back off of the confidential list if you became confidential. I know it's extremely confusing. It's extremely confusing for me and my staff, and I know that there's going to be questions, but it's one of the new things and you'll need to think about it. Do I want to be on the public list or do I not? Because that's pretty much the difference between the two. Yeah, I just went like this over the heads. We can talk about it more. Yeah. In the handbook, there is a checklist and it lists all of the different activities that need to be done. So your nomination papers, your declaration, the different forms that you have to do, and it really is just a checklist. So you can go, yep, I've done that. Yep, I've done that. Yep, I've done that. And it explains the deadlines of when they're due. So it's a really good page and it's in your handbook. And again, it's online that you can pull down and use as a reference as you're working your way through the candidacy period. All right, I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions on the overview, and then we will talk about specific forms.
For anyone that has a question online, go ahead and click on the raise hand option and you'll be allowed to speak.
Okay, seeing and hearing no questions, I will move on. The next slide shows, if I can have you pass. The next slide shows what a nomination petition looks like. Now, each jurisdiction is going to make theirs look a little bit different, but for the most part, it's going to start off with a statement that says, I, the undersigned, am a voter of the city of Watsonville and district whatever, and I am signing to nominate whoever the candidate is that's circulating. And then the voter themselves are going to fill out the signature block by printing their name, signing their name, and writing their residence address. It's very important that all of those blocks are filled out. So a printed name, a signed name, the street address, not mailing, residence street address, and the city of where they live. It doesn't need to be the whole thing. It doesn't have to say Watsonville, California, 95076. It can just say Watsonville. And the voter must do it in their own hand. And then there's anywhere between 10 to 30 blocks on the nomination paper, depending again on what the jurisdiction is using. And at the end of that, there's a declaration or an affidavit of the circulator. So whoever is circulating the nomination paper would then sign and say that I, Tricia, at such and so address between Monday and Wednesday, the 1st and the 3rd of July or August, watched these people sign their names on this nomination paper. And then I would sign it. So if I'm circulating and Nancy's circulating and Erwin's circulating, we can't circulate one page because each page has to be signed by the circulator who watched it happen. So I can't say, I saw this and Erwin saw this and Nancy saw this. It has to be, my page, his page, her page. And then those nomination pages get turned in and then they're reviewed. And we are looking to see that on the dates that they were signed, where did the signer live? And then we're going to qualify it or we're not going to qualify it based on what the registration data shows. I will tell you, usually 1 in 4 signatures does not qualify. It's either registered at a different address or it wasn't in their own hand or the signature doesn't match. So I recommend that even though you only need 20, that you get at least 25 signatures or 30 in order to make sure you meet the requirements. Because if you fall short, we are going to let you know, and then you're going to need to get a supplemental and go back out and get some more signatures. So start off big, and then usually you will make it during those if you come in with 30 signatures. So after the signatures are obtained and they're qualified, you are then going to file your declaration of candidacy. So this document is going to say, I, Tricia Weber, am declaring myself to be a candidate for whatever office I'm running for. And it's going to say how I want my name to appear on the ballot. It's going to say what my number one choice for my ballot designation is. And then it's going to list down an address. And then on the back of the paper, you will say, I meet the qualifications, and then take an oath to say, yes, I want to be a candidate. And then you are officially a candidate. Okay. It's a lot of steps. So let's talk about our name. You can go by a lot of different ways that you can go by your name, right? So my name is Tricia Weber. It's actually Tricia Irene Linger Weber. So I could put Tricia Irene Linger Weber if I wanted to. I could put Tricia Irene Weber. I could put Tricia I Weber. I could put just Tricia Weber. Okay, so my name, that's my name. But let's say that my name legally is Patricia. I could do Patricia, or I could still use Tricia because that's what I'm A, known as, and B, it is a common nickname for the legal name of Patricia. But let's just say I'm known as Slim. That's what I'm known as out in the public. I can't choose my ballot name to be Slim Weber because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't come from Tricia naturally. So I would do Tricia Slim in quotation marks Weber. And that way my nickname of what I'm known out in the community is also included on my ballot name. The ballot designation, again, is the words that fall underneath your name on the ballot that talk about your principal vocation, occupation, or profession. And it can only be 3 words. But remember, how I told you earlier, I don't use the regular alphabet. I also don't count words the same. So I could use Santa Cruz County Clerk. That's my official title. But you're counting, that's 4 words. It's not, because Santa Cruz County is 1 word. Okay? If you're the incumbent, you can use the word incumbent, or you can use your title. If you are appointed, you haven't been through the benefit of an election, you would have to use appointed county clerk or appointed incumbent. If you use your title or you use incumbent, that's all you can put. Otherwise, you can do a combination of things as long as you're not exceeding your 3 words. So let's say that I'm a teacher, and I'm also a mother. So teacher is my profession, motherhood is my vocation. So I could do teacher/mother. 2 words. But I couldn't do high school teacher/mother because high school teacher itself is 3 words. Clear as mud, right? And that's why we're here to help, because there's a bunch of codes that talk about ballot designations, like about 4 pages in 6-point font, but we go through that when we're helping you file. So when you come up with something or you have a question, we can help through. Well, yes, this will qualify or this won't qualify, but also you put down 3 choices, your number 1 choice, and then 2 options. So if number 1 doesn't work for some reason, then we go to your first option. And if the first option doesn't work, we go to your second option. So there's opportunities for us to get something close to what you want under the legal parameters that there are for ballot designations. But you could also choose not to do a ballot designation, and that's fine. we could have it blank underneath your name, and that's perfectly acceptable. So on your when you come up with what your ballot designation is, you're going to fill out a ballot designation worksheet. That worksheet's going to give your name and all of that stuff. It's going to put your number one choice, your two options, and then on the second page, which I'm hoping you have perfect, you give justification. So let's go ahead and say that I'm going to use the teacher/mother as my ballot designation. So on the first justification, I have to say why I can use teacher. So I say, I have been teaching at Scotts Valley High School for the last 15 years. I teach special education. Here's my principal's name. Here's my principal's contact information for it to be, for you to verify that I am a teacher. Then in my second block, I'm going to say why I can use mother. I have a 22-year-old daughter. This is her name. This is how you can get a hold of her. Hopefully she likes me that day and claims me as her mother. But you do the justification for each of your different options that you want on your ballot designation, because we do and check it out. We want to make sure that we're not putting misleading information down, that if you are a teacher, you say you're a teacher, you really are a teacher. And then you answer, it looks like 12 different questions, which are yes, no. And I will tell you right now, if you check no, it means that that ballot designation won't work. So it's asking you, are you an incumbent and you used something other than the name of your title and incumbent? Are you retired and you put retired at the end? So like, naval officer retired, that's not acceptable. You have to have retired first. If you're using retired, you haven't had any other profession since when you retired and now. And it walks you through, and if you say no, then it means that that designation can't be used. I have an answer.
Do we have a question?
Mhm.
Can I say incumbent/council member? Will that count as 3 words?
You cannot use incumbent with any other word unless it's appointed. So you could use incumbent, or you could use council member, or you could use Watsonville City Council member, but you can't use incumbent with anything else.
Do we have any other questions online? Also, for those that have joined late, if you click the raise hand option, we can allow you to speak. Thank you.
Okay, so the question was, can you use former? And off the top of my head, I don't have an answer. I'd have to look at the code. But I will and get back to you. Mhm. Any other questions on ballot designation? No? Okay. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. Candidate statement of qualifications. So again, this is an optional thing that you can do, and that's what's placed into the county voter information guide and or placed online for voters to read about you. This statement is 200 words, up to 200 words, and it talks about you. What is it that you as a candidate will bring to the office? What qualifications do you have? What are your ideas? What are your thoughts? Why should a voter vote for you? And you can turn in your statement at the time you declare your candidacy, and you can choose to have that printed in the voter guide and mailed out to the voters, or online only. And we'll talk about the cost for it because it is optional. The candidate does pay for a statement. But I just want to give a couple reminders when you do your statement. When you write it and you count it up and you think this is it and it's polished, proof it again. And then guess what? Proof it again one more time after that. And then give it to 5 of your closest friends and have them proof it numerous times. Because once it's turned in and filed, that's what it is. So if you misspell Watsonville, forgetting the last E, I will print it with Watsonville missing the last E. I cannot correct it. So make sure you look it over, then look it over, then look it over one last time. Your statement cannot reference any other candidates. It also, because these are nonpartisan offices, it cannot reference your political party affiliation or your affiliation with any political party group. We encourage you to keep your statement to 3 paragraphs, so it fits nicely on the page. We do it in block style, and I'll show you an example in a little bit. We format everything to, we do flush left. We print in a font called Clearview ADA. It's one of the most accessible fonts for people who have disabilities and works really well with screen readers. Please do not do bolding, capitalization, underlining, or bullets. You can use some italicized words, but not much because it doesn't, again, read well for ADA standards. Next one. So here's an example of the printed candidate statement. So this is Chris Candidate. And so that's Chris is the name of the candidate. And underneath it, you see it says teacher, then a phone number, then an email address, a website, and the age. Those are all things that we call freebie line. They do not count towards your 200 words. So teacher is Chris's ballot designation. And there it's listed some contact information for Chris and has stated Chris's age. You can choose to do any of those, all of those, or none of those. But I want to remind you that it's a freebie line and it is not counted towards your 200 words. And the reason I stress that is a lot of candidates want to put contact information into the body of their candidate statement, and then they go over in word count. So this is a reminder that you can list how to get a hold of you and still have words to use in your candidate statement and not lose that word count by relisting it. You can relist it all you want, but remember, when it's in your statement, it's against your 200 words. When it's up in the freebie line, it doesn't go against your 200 words. And then Chris chose to do their statement also in Spanish. So then we translate into the other languages, and then we give it to the candidate for them to review. But we have to use a certain, we're required under the code to use translators with certain certifications. And so that's why you submit it in English, and then we translate it, and then you have the chance to review it. So the cost of the statement is done through a formula. If you are looking to do it printed, then it would be $320 plus 3 cents a voter. And that 3 cents a voter is to go towards the printing and the mailing of the statement to the voters. That is an estimation, because how many voters are in your district right now is not necessarily the number of voters that are going to be in the district when we mail out the voter guides. So we make an estimate, and then at the end of the election, we find out the true cost of the candidate statement. And if we underestimated, we're going to send you a bill to get the difference. If we overestimated, we're going to send you a refund. So that $320 plus 3 cents a voter is again for English only. If you wish to have it translated into Spanish, you add an additional $150 to the total. If you'd like to have it printed in either Japanese or Thai, then it's $450 additional. Now, why the big difference? We received Japanese and Thai as a mandated language in January. We've had Spanish as a mandated language for, well, I've been with the department since 1998. We've had it since at least 1998. So we've got our translators and we've got our team and everything dialed in for Spanish. We are just starting to build those relationships with Japanese and Thai. And so it's costing more now until we can get it dialed in. If you do a printed statement, then we automatically put it online. But you can also choose to do an online only statement. So it would only appear online and then it would just be $320 plus any additional translation fees. I think that's, yeah, I was gonna say, yes.
For the candidates for City of Watsonville, to give you an idea of the cost of the candidate statement, for District 3, it's $434. District 4, $427. District 5, $411. And for District 7, $452, plus $150 for Spanish.
Well, that actually comes to me. Yeah. I'm gonna pause because this is the end of the talk about candidate statements to see if there's any questions or questions online. No, that's the total. So there was a question in the chambers. It was, is that $452 still plus the 3 cents a voter? And the answer is no, that was the total. So it's the 320, and then we took the 3 cents times the number of voters, and that's what we added to it to get to the 452. No, it's not 1,000. It's only 452. Plus 150 for Spanish. Okay.
For District 3, once again, I have a question for District 3. $434. I might as well just read them all. So District 3, $434. District 4, $427. District 5, $411. And District 7, $452. If you want to include the Spanish translation, it will be an additional $150.
Okay. I think that's it for candidate statements. So we can move on to the next one. So the next slide is just a recap of some of the forms that we've talked about for the FPPC and a couple additional ones. So the I jump over to the 460. So anybody who has created or will be creating a campaign committee first does that through what's known as a Form 410 that goes to the Secretary of State's office. And in your committee name, you must have your surname, the office that you are running for, and the year of the election. And then once it goes to the Secretary of State's office and it gets approved, you receive your FPPC number. And then that is also transmitted to the city. And you guys do use NetFile, right? where the city will put you into the NetFile system, where you will then be able to do the rest of your filing forms for the FPPC online. One of those, and you can create a committee at any time, but you must create the committee when you hit the $2,000 threshold. And that $2,000 is either what you've spent or what you've received in donations. After you file Form 10 and create your committee, you then will need to file Form 460. 460 takes you through, it's either semi-annual or during a pre-election phase, and you have to note all of your donations and all of your expenses. If you do not create a committee, because you didn't raise or spend 2,000 yet, you would then file what's known as a 470. And the 470 says, I haven't reached that threshold. I have, so you don't need to go and say I've spent $4 on photocopying my nomination papers or anything because you're under the 2,000 threshold. I'm not going to speak specifically for what happens at the city, but I will tell you if you plan on running for a special district or a school district when you file with me, I will ask you when you file, are you planning to do a committee? And if you say no, I will have you file the 470 with me right then and there. So I don't have to track you down later because it doesn't go on to NetFile. It's an actual paper form. I don't track you down for the filing period. So don't be surprised if you are asked that question when you file. Everybody files a 470 if they're not doing a campaign committee. A couple other forms that you may need to file would be a 496 or a 497. And that's in the last 90 days of the prior to the election. If you receive or spend something over $1,000, you have to file within 24 hours a notification of that. 496 or 497. Okay. So here is a copy of the campaign filing schedule for the November 3rd election. It's also in the candidate handbook, and it talks about exactly when semi-annuals were due. And for those of you who have already filed or formed a committee, your semi-annual period is coming up quick. June 30th is the end of that period, and it's due by, July 31st. But then it goes through, it talks about the pre-elections times, it talks about the current semi-annual for the period we're in now, when the semi-annual is due for the second half of the year. And it tells you exactly the periods, the forms that are due on that filing date, and when you would need to file it. Do you have a local ordinance you want to talk about?
Watsonville does have an ordinance that mimics that schedule as well. So the schedule that's Trisha is referencing, the same dates apply for Watsonville. So we will send out notifications for those as well, so that you're on that same filing period that the county is.
We can go to the next slide. So if I can say anything and have you leave with it tonight, other than make sure you proof your statement numerous times, is don't be late on your filing dates. There is no wiggle room. When a filing date is the date that it's due and you miss it, then most likely the FPPC is going to come or the city is going to come and they're going to fine you. There is no, you can't say, oh, I was out of town, or oh, I was feeling under the weather. It doesn't matter. The filing date deadline is the deadline. There's no way around it. So make sure you have that down on your calendars so you know exactly when you have to file, and follow the filing calendar that we showed you the slide before. It's in the book. Okay. And that takes me, I will tell you, it's on page 65 of the book. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I can answer questions now. What we've listed on this slide is our office. So again, if you have questions globally on candidate filing, or again, you need information on like data files or maps or something, you would give us a call. And if you've changed your mind and you want to run for a special district or a school district, you would work with us. Otherwise, specific questions regarding filing, deadlines, questions, paperwork for the city council, you would talk to Erwin and staff.
Hang it on the wall. So that it's, yeah.
Smart move. Yes. The question was is if it's your own money, do you still need to file for campaign finance? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. That's not good. Google up there, no.
Yes, he is.
There is a question online.
Okay.
Let me see. Pull it up. Is the handbook available online?
Yes, the handbook is available online. Our website is votescount.santacruzcountyca.gov. And underneath the November 3rd election, right under on our current events, is a link to our handbook. Also a link to all of the different forms. Except the confidential voter form. That one we didn't put online because it requires a lot of discussion back and forth on what it means.
Do we have any other questions from any members online or anyone in the audience? I don't see any more. I committed to recording this session here, so I will be posting this online hopefully tomorrow, so that those that didn't have an opportunity to visit us today or join us online can watch.
Okay, well, please forgive my stuttering. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. It's an exciting journey that you're on, and we're here to help you through that journey and looking forward to it. Take care.